I'm your host, Tara Lake, and I'm here with a wonderful artist who we have the opportunity to speak with today, T.D. Anderson, an artist, reverend, and teaching elder for the Presbyterian Church USA, is here to speak with us about a beautiful two-panel series that she has offered us in such a pivotal and critical time. And it's called Pietà. Woman, behold your son, behold your mother. And for those of you who are going to be able to take a look at the video that we hope to share with you, you can see those gorgeous panels behind T.D. Anderson that she so generously brought to share with us today. So, T.D. Anderson, how are you today? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm pretty good today.
Good, good. And I have to tell you, I had an opportunity to see your artwork because in several networks that I frequent, there was a great deal of buzz and discussion about your work. And I couldn't believe I hadn't come across you before. And I thought that our listeners here, you're listening to 106.5 FM, WPPM LP, Philadelphia. And I thought that our listeners, especially here in Philadelphia, who have been so active in the racial and social justice movements that have been so much a part of our world in 2020, that our discussions around the senseless loss of too many African-American men and women this year, that you gave us at once a beautiful history lesson, but also a moment to reflect on the very painful present. And you did so in such a poignant way. So I want to get into this right away and talk about what brought you to this work. So could you give us a little bit of background in any way that you would like in terms of what brought you to present this work to us and paint this gorgeous work, Pietà, Woman, Behold Your Son, Behold Your Mother?
Absolutely. So 2020 has been a year. There is often the juxtaposition of the COVID-19 crisis and the continuing, I'll say, practice at this point of extrajudicially killing Black people in the United States. Those have been positioned as dual pandemics. And my job, I serve as denominational staff for the Presbyterian Church USA, doing racial justice, helping push that work throughout the church. And so I couldn't help but just wrestle with the fact that in the midst of a public health crisis, Black people were once again getting the short end of the stick. And as much as everything was halted by the pandemic in our lives, one thing the pandemic could not stop was George Floyd, was Breonna Taylor, was Ahmaud Arbery. And in addition to everyone that we've lost either to police shootings, extrajudicial killings, and coronavirus infections, we also lost John Lewis this year.
Yes.
And in his op-ed that he shared posthumously, he talked about how for him, his George Floyd, his Breonna Taylor, his Rayshard Brooks was Emmett Till. And that happened in 1955. And so I am a minister. I have a background in arts. My undergraduate degree is in art. And for me, one of the most cathartic things that I can do in the midst of grief and trauma is to create. And so I picked up paintbrushes. I hadn't painted for years. It had been quite some time since I had painted something. And so I just started painting again and coming back to that discipline and coming back to that catharsis of painting. And I thought so much about Mamie Till-Mobley and what she did in the aftermath of her son's lynching and how that changed everything, and yet also so much still remains the same. So I felt like if for John Lewis Emmett Till was his George Floyd, and yet we still have a George Floyd in 2020. Somebody's not listening.
Mm, mm.
I just, this woman went through so much to tell this story so that things could change, and so much did change. But clearly we need the lesson again. And I just wanted to find a way to center this woman and the power in what she did. I felt like we needed to revisit that story.